Okay, picture this. Me, a die-hard K-pop fan, finally gets to see my favorite idols live. Tickets were sold out in minutes. I queued for hours, fought off scalpers, and even promised my neighbor's cat I'd clean its litter box for a month. All for this one night, K-pop night out at the Singapore Indoor Stadium. The hype was real, man. I'm talking weeks of anticipation, sleepless nights spent crafting the perfect fan chants, and enough energy drinks to power a small city. My friends and I, we were practically buzzing with excitement. This was it, the holy grail of K-pop experiences. Little did I know I was in for a big, fat letdown. In my head, K-pop night out was going to be epic. I'm talking pyrotechnics, confetti raining from the ceiling, and my bias winking at me from the stage. We'd be singing along to every song, screaming our lungs out and basking in the glow of our shared love for all things K-pop. I imagined myself, lost in the music, feeling the beat pulse through my veins. The energy of the crowd would be electric, a sea of light sticks swaying in unison. This wasn't just a concert, it was a pilgrimage, a chance to connect with my tribe. Yeah, I know I was dreaming big, but hey, a girl can dream, right? The first sign that things weren't quite right? The venue. Don't get me wrong, the Singapore Indoor Stadium is iconic and all, but it felt strangely empty. Like someone forgot to tell half the city about the biggest K-pop event of the year. Instead of a roaring crowd, we got scattered pockets of people awkwardly shuffling around. The stage, which I'd envisioned as a dazzling spectacle of lights and screens, was underwhelming. I've seen more impressive setups at my neighbor's karaoke sessions. Where was the wow factor, the razzle-dazzle? This was K-pop, not a funeral procession. Now, I'm not one to back down from a challenge. In fact, challenges are what I live for. They give me a sense of purpose, a rush of adrenaline that makes me feel alive. So, when I saw the opportunity to get closer to the stage at the K-pop concert, I knew I had to take it. Armed with my trusty light stick, which had been my companion at countless concerts, and a healthy dose of delusion, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I had no plan, no strategy, just sheer determination and a burning desire to be closer to my idols. Operation Get Closer to the Stage was a go. I felt like a secret agent on a mission, weaving through the crowd with laser focus. Every step brought me closer to the stage, and my heart pounded with excitement. I weaved through the sparse crowd, dodging stray elbows and confused stares. It was like navigating a maze, each turn presenting a new obstacle. But I was undeterred. I had my eyes on the prize, and nothing was going to stop me. My target, the elusive barrier separating us mere mortals from the K-pop gods. It was within sight, just a few feet away. I could almost feel the energy radiating from the stage, the music pulsing through my veins. I was so close I could almost taste it. The lights, the music, the atmosphere, it was also intoxicating. Then disaster struck. In my excitement, I failed to notice a rogue cable snaking across the ground. My foot got caught in a rogue cable and I went down like a sack of potatoes. One moment I was on top of the world and the next I was flat on the ground, my dreams of glory slipping away. Let's just say my graceful tumble did not go unnoticed by the security guards, who had been keeping a watchful eye on the crowd. They swooped in like hawks, their expressions a mix of concern and amusement. They promptly escorted me back to my seat, their firm grip a reminder of my failed mission. I tried to protest, to explain that I was just trying to get closer to the action, but they were having none of it. My dreams of stage diving glory, crushed. I sat there, dejected, my light stick now a symbol of my defeat. But as the music played on, I couldn't help but smile. After all, I had tried, and sometimes that's all that matters. The audio was so jumbled I could barely recognize the songs. It was as if someone had taken all the tracks, thrown them into a blender, and hit the highest speed. The melodies were lost in a sea of static, and the lyrics were just a distant echo, barely discernible over the noise. Okay, so the venue was a dud, and my stage diving career ended before it began. But hey, at least the music would be good, right? Wrong. The anticipation had been building up for weeks, and I had imagined this night to be a symphony of my favorite tunes. Instead, it was a symphony of disaster. The sound system was so atrocious it sounded like they were playing the songs through a walkie-talkie submerged in a bucket of water. Every beat was distorted, every note was off-key, and the whole experience was like listening to a bad radio transmission from another planet. Vocals were drowned out by screeching feedback, instruments were muddled together in a cacophony of noise, and the bass was so overpowering it felt like my internal organs were doing the rumba. The musicians on stage looked just as frustrated as the audience, their faces contorted in a mix of confusion and annoyance. I love a good bass drop as much as the next K-pop fan, but this was ridiculous. The bass was so overpowering that it felt like it was shaking the very ground beneath us. It wasn't just music anymore. It was a physical assault on the senses. I swear I could hear my brain cells committing seppuku. Each screech and thump was like a dagger to my eardrums. I looked around and saw others in the crowd with similar expressions of pain and frustration. It was supposed to be a night of fun and music, but it turned into an endurance test of how much auditory torture we could withstand. Eventually, people started to leave. The promise of a great night out was shattered, and the crowd thinned as more and more people decided they had enough. It was a mass exodus of disappointed fans, each one hoping for a refund or at least an apology for the disaster that was this concert. By the end of the night, the venue was nearly empty. The stage, once the focal point of excitement and anticipation, stood abandoned and silent. The only sounds left were the murmurs of discontent and the occasional feedback from the still malfunctioning speakers. It was a night to remember, but for all the wrong reasons. The MC's jokes were lost on me and everyone else too. To add insult to injury, the MCs they hired were about as funny as a root canal. I get it, humor is subjective. But these guys were trying way too hard, cracking cringe-worthy jokes that landed flatter than a pancake. The worst part? They kept repeating the same tired jokes as if trying to convince us they were funny the first, second, and 10th time around. Even the translator looked pained. I'm pretty sure I saw a few audience members spontaneously combust from secondhand embarrassment. The crowd was about as lively as a wet tissue. Now you might be thinking, okay, so the venue was meh, the sound was terrible, and the MCs were a snooze fest. But surely the crowd was lit, right? Wrong again. The audience was about as lively as a wet tissue. I mean, I get it, not everyone is a screaming, fan-chanting machine like me, but come on people, this is K-pop. Show some enthusiasm. Even my attempts to start a wave were met with blank stares and bewildered shrugs. It was like being trapped in a K-pop graveyard. So much for an unforgettable night, I just felt cheated. By the time the final song rolled around, I was ready to pack it in. My voice was hoarse from trying to sing over the sonic mess, my feet were throbbing from standing for hours, and my spirit was well and truly crushed. This wasn't the epic K-pop experience I'd been dreaming of, it was a disaster. As I trudged out of the stadium, I couldn't help but feel cheated. I'd spent good money, sacrificed countless hours of sleep, and even subjected myself to my neighbor's cat's litter box for this. It was enough to make me swear off K-pop concerts for life. Almost. Next time I'm sticking to YouTube concerts. So, what did I learn from this soul-crushing experience? Well, it was a night filled with high hopes and even higher expectations. I had been looking forward to this concert for months, eagerly counting down the days. But reality hit hard, and it hit fast. Well, for starters, never underestimate the power of online reviews. They are there for a reason, and ignoring them can lead to disastrous outcomes. I had seen a few negative comments but brushed them off thinking, how bad could it really be? Turns out pretty bad. Had I done my research, I might have known that K-pop Night Out was notorious for being a letdown. The sound quality was terrible, the crowd was unruly, and the venue was far from what I had imagined. It was a recipe for disaster from the start. Secondly, sometimes it's okay to keep your expectations in check. I had built this concert up in my mind to be the event of the year, something that would be unforgettable in the best way possible, but in doing so, I set myself up for disappointment. I'd built this concert up to be something it was never going to be, and in the process, I'd set myself up for disappointment. It's a hard lesson to learn, but an important one. Sometimes it's better to go in with no expectations and be pleasantly surprised. From now on, I'm sticking to YouTube concerts. At least with YouTube, I can control the environment. I can choose the best performances, skip the boring parts, and even pause for a snack break if I want to. At least that way, I can control the volume, the crowd, and the MCs. No more dealing with obnoxious fans or terrible sound systems. It's a win-win situation. Plus, no risk of tripping over rogue cables and becoming a viral sensation for all the wrong reasons. It's safer, more convenient, and honestly, just as enjoyable. So, here's to more YouTube concerts and fewer real-life disappointments.